Hey. Don't worry, I've got newspaper down here. One more try. Wow. The lighting is not right. I'm going to turn on more lights here. There, that's better. We'll have to live with that glare there. Well, you know, I thought of this topic, play therapy for all. I designated this topic way back in the middle of winter, thinking that, oh, by the end of May, we'll all be ready to go out and play in the beautiful summer. Ha! And add to that I have a passion for this area called social play. It's one of my passions. And when I tell people that we're going to have social play activities to get acquainted games and stuff, people groan and roll their eyes. So it's kind of an uphill journey, an uphill effort to have a platform, to have an arena for this kind of thing. We're all such serious people these days. So I even considered abandoning this topic, because it seems like it's more appropriate to have a topic more like the brown matter has hit the fan. But then the sunlight dawned, and I realized that this is just the right moment to touch the note of playfulness, of child's play, of carefree pastimes, such as the need for easing the stress of this pandemic lockdown. So, I haven't figured out a way for us to play across the screens, but I'm going to tell you some stories. And storytelling, is a form of playfulness. So tell you some stories of how child's play informs us about the human condition. So this is a story from when I was 6 years old. So return with us now to those early days of yesteryear when the daring masked rider of the plains and his faithful Indian companion Tonto led the fight for law and order in the early West. No, I just had to show off there. So it's about when 1951, the summer of 1951, and I was 6 and living in an apartment complex that was an early suburban development. It wasn't surrounded by other buildings. It was just in the middle of kind of woods and creeks and stuff. And it was a U-shaped brick building that had 3 entrances, one on each end and one in the middle, and I think 3 stories. And us kids would play in that courtyard that the E-shaped structure enclosed. And so you know how irresistible it is to kids when people say, want to play hide and go seek? And then everybody just says, not it, not it, not it. And then the last person to say not it is it. And then the game begins. And it's just an irresistible draw to children, to the thrill of hiding. But the real game of hide and go seek, and by the way, it has collapsed into hide and seek. That is not the correct name. It's hide and go seek. Okay. And there's a special, dialogue for it. You use special language. So when you begin the game, everybody says, not it, not it, not it. And the last person saying not it is it. And the person who's it then says, I'm going to count to 60. And that's the agreed upon number they're going to count. And it pretty much stays the same throughout each round. And then They count to 60, and when they finish 60, they say, here I come, ready or not, anyone around my base is it. And then they tag people trying to get home to base, try to tag them. And if somebody gets tagged before they get home to the base, then they're the next it, and the game starts over, you see. And then when the person who's it has tagged somebody, and they're no longer the chaser, then they call Ollie Ollie in free, Ollie Ollie in free, and then everybody comes in to start over, because you have to start hiding from the base. This is a perfect model for a social play game, because it's not adversarial. No one is ever out. No one is ever the loser. It's just a rotating role of being it, and it is the chaser, and nobody likes to be it because it's a drag to chase, but it's much more exciting to be chased. So, but you have to play the game to get the payoff of to be it. Well, we all were playing this game. We were so enthralled. We had never witnessed a game quite like this, because first of all, there were between 15 and 20 children there to play. It must have been people visiting their families for a summer visit, because I didn't know who the kids were, most of them. And we were all ages, from little tiny kids to big grown kids. We had little kids, we had small kids, we had medium-sized kids, and we had big kids, all ages. And what happened was, you see, that we discovered that there was a kind of thrill going on in this game, because first of all, the bigger kids would pretend they didn't see the little kids. And the little kids would get the thrill of sneaking into home base unnoticed by the person who was it. Oh, and at the last minute they say, oh, you got there ahead of me, I didn't even see you. Dang. And then the little kids would be all excited and laughing at that, and feel that they had gotten over on the bigger kids. And so as the little kids accumulated, who had found their way home, it got a smaller and smaller contest between the kids who could really run fast. And the kids who could run fast even drew out the contest. You know, like when it got down to the last two people, the last one person who was still hiding out, and the person who was it trying to get them, they would run all around the courtyard, dart in and out of bushes, draw it out, until finally the person who got tagged or got to home base got a big cheer from the peanut gallery, from the audience they had. I'd never seen anything like it as a child, and I made a mental note, even at 6 years old. I want to remember this for the rest of my life. This is so fun, you know. But what was really, really pertinent about it, and what touched my heart so much, and what is so extraordinary about this moment, is that there were kids in the group, bigger kids, who would tag the littlest kid they could get, just to prove that they didn't have to be it anymore. And then the game would start over. But the response that they got, the look in the eyes of all the kids who were witnessing this game, was like, really? Is that all the best you can do? You're not very nice, are you? You're not very kind, are you? It was in our eyes. We would look at these boys or girls, whoever it was, with this look of disappointment that they just took the shortest route to have the most power, to have the most dominance. And these children who were experiencing doing this, they realized that's how they were being seen by the group. And they changed. They changed their behavior. And they adopted the ethics, if you will. They adopted the model of the heroic children who were playing the game to draw out all of the fun and strength and high-mindedness, if you will. that they could. So what does that tell us about character development in children? I mean, it didn't take but a few trial and error experiences for these children who were habitually, selfish, domineering, manipulating, to change, to abandon their ways. I think that's just amazing, miraculous, extraordinary. And that's one of the values of Child's Play. Now, one of the things I made a mental note to remember when I was experiencing this game of hide and go seek was, how long did it last? How long did it go on for? It went on for 3 days. 3 days. Our parents would call us in to go to bed. We'd come out first thing in the morning after our breakfast. Our parents would call us into lunch. We'd come out right after. The parents would call us into dinner. We'd come out right after. It continued. All the children showed up and played this game for 3 consecutive days. And then it must have been that the visitors left because it was no more. But I cherished that fun in my life. That summer was right after kindergarten. Now, so later on then, fast forward 40 years, I was a mom of teenagers, and there was a wonderful resource in our community called the Bethesda Youth Services, it was. And they had wonderful counselors there. And every time my children and I were not communicating properly, I would drag them off to counseling at Bethesda Youth Services. So Bethesda Youth Services announced a family fun night one time. And I said, well, that sounds good. Let's go. So we went. There was a man there. There was a man there named Frank Acox, who was from Philadelphia. He was a social worker who had developed an area that he calls social play. He had even written a book called Games We Should Play in School. And he had gone into the junior high schools of Philadelphia with these games that he had developed, which promote cohesiveness in a group. And he had spent one day a week in each Philadelphia junior high school. And the result was that there were no gangs, that the boys had become completely cohesive and friendly and were not engaging in gang culture. He has developed this into a whole website. It's called Play Corp. He's no longer living, Frank Acox. But what happened at that family fun night was that we had so much fun. I can't exactly remember the things that he facilitated with us, but we were all laughing the whole time. And then it came upon me the opportunity to direct a summer camp that was a volunteer camp that was sponsored by the Disciples of Christ Church in Washington, D.C. The summer camp that was for the junior high age group. And so I asked Frank Acox if he would come and be the special guest of that summer camp, which was a 5-day session, a 5-day program. And so he agreed to. So at that camp, summer camp program that year, there was no crafts, arts and crafts, there was no nature walks, there was no music, there was simply session after session of social play games with each other. And by the time the camp was over, every single kid there liked every other single kid there. And that had never happened before, because traditionally the camp was composed of half kids from the cushy suburbs and half kids that were on scholarship from the urban core of Washington, D.C., and they did not mix. But, they limped along as well as they could. Well, this year, no. Everyone was just in love with everyone else. And so sad to part. We had a wonderful wonderful time together. It was kind of an experiment to me in what's possible for social integration. But I took those games and that skill that I observed Frank A. Cox demonstrating, and I tried to school myself in it and implement it. And later on, many years later, I was asked to lead a summer camp for a church group that was going to take place at a campus that had a swimming pool. That's part of the story. It was all volunteer again. And so I was using all of the games and rituals that I had developed out of my study of the work of Frank A. Cox. And so on the first day of this camp session, which was pretty much all ages, it was mostly like 8, 9, 10, 11-year-olds. So on the first day, the counselors, the volunteer counselors, or chaperones, were with the kids, and I went like one activity ahead to set it up, and then they would come in to the activity and I would facilitate it. So we were right at the point in midday where the kids were swimming. They were in a pool, and I was in a little activity house next to the pool, setting up for the next activity, which was going to be sacred water ritual, which was something that I developed. See, play can be thought of as ceremonial ritual or play ritual. So this was a ceremonial ritual where each child would pour water into a cup, and I was able to use a ladle. They love to ladle water too. Put water into a cup and then serve that cup of water to another person. It was all done with no talking. And hopefully every person in the group was served water by some person. So the kids came in from swimming and they seemed disgruntled. They seemed unhappy. And so I said, "What's the matter? What's the matter?" I hear unhappy noises. And so several different children started telling me that there was this one boy that they identified who was grabbing the girls underwater and telling them threatening things. And this boy vehemently denied it. I did not. Well, there's a game in Frank A. Cox's book, Games You Should Play in School, called Court. And he says that if you use it when there is a dispute in a group, and you use it quickly, and you just said, okay, you be the judge, you be the lawyer, you be the witness, you be the what do you call it? The juror, the jury. And so I did. I said, well, let's have court. You're the judge. You're the lawyer representing the defendant. You're the prosecuting attorney, and you're the jury, and you're the witness. Let's go. And so it came out that every child there witnessed this happen and said that it did happen. And very mysterious, because none of the chaperones saw it. But every child said it happened. And it just so happened that there was a sizable group within the group that was one family there were 3 brothers of the family who were defending and protecting their little sisters. And so at the end of processing everything everybody had to say, then the judge said, all right, I find the defendant guilty as charged. And the boy, who had been all through the court game, he'd been saying, I did not. It was pointless for him to maintain that he didn't, to deny it. And he knew it. And as he sat there, he cried. He wept. He actually broke. His will broke to deny that he did it. And it was the first time that he had ever had to admit wrongdoing on his part. And he'd been doing it for a long time. It was one of his survival strategies, an unhealthy one. And for the first time, he had to admit and confront his own behavior. And what did the group do? We just sat there and held that space and witnessed it. And then I started the next activity, which was, by the grace of God, which was this sacred water ritual. And so we all sat in a circle to do the ritual, to serve water to another person. And what happened was, what I witnessed was, that the brothers of these girls who had been intimidated each one served water to that boy. So I want you to realize that play is a ritualized experience to capture a specific moment, a feeling, a demonstrated performance, a designated experience. It expands consciousness. It deepens awareness. It brings us to a kind of encounter at the visceral level, at the quick of our personalities, if you will. You know, when they have spiritual retreats at different, like Catholic retreats, even unity retreats, it's become a matter of having one ritual after another, one kind of structured interaction that brings out the theme and purpose of the retreat. And with each different and new ritual, the people have a more and more authentic, more unguarded, more personal and intimate connection with each other and with themselves. So from this day forward, let us resolve and prepare ourselves to employ the device of ritual, the human capacity for play, for sport, for gamesmanship, to enrich our lives. It has no carbon footprint. The only cost is imagination. And the reward is a more finely honed human being, a sense of self that is invigorated and connected. Remember that all the arts, drama, painting, sculpting, drawing, dance, are all originating in child's play, which only means that it is our instinctual nature to do. So I say, let the games begin. Now I want to hold a time of meditation. And for those of you who might be new to Unity, I would like to explain to you that meditation in silence is one of the cornerstones of the Unity teachings. It is derived from the Psalms, the secret place of the Most High, from Jesus' teaching, enter into the inner closet and pray to the Father in secret. It is really the same as the wonderful Maharishi Mahesh Yogi starting the Transcendental movement in America. It's the same thing. Transcendental meditation. He says in Transcendental Meditation, we contact the source of thought. Well, in Unity, we teach meditation in the silence. We go within and reach a place, a point of silence. And we use a positive affirmation to focus our attention and to begin by implanting a thought in the consciousness that can then take root and spiritualize our entire being. So as we begin, I want to light the Christ candle that represents the spirit of the Christ that indwells everyone in consciousness. Here. Beautiful. And our thought for meditation today is, in the freedom and innocence of the Christ within, I am at play. Now, freedom and innocence. That is our right. That is our access. So let's take this thought into silence. In the freedom and innocence of the Christ within, I am at play. You are free. You are innocent. In the stillness of deep communion with the divine. Breathing, knowing, rising, realizing. We are one. Amen. You are a creature of joy and laughter. Know this and be blessed by it.